why are you consistently so drawn to bringing those sort of voices and those brilliant women into the light?
Because I just felt that, I mean, comedy has so ghettoized women for so long in a way that it wasn't that, you know, in the 30s and 40s, you look at those movies and, you know, men and women were equal in movies. You know, I love all the old screwball comedies and things like that. And then I just watched as I was, you know, a kid, and all my best friends were girls and women. And then I'd watch these comedies, and they were all the women were relegated to just being props, you know, or being, you know, kind of tortured by the cool guys, or they're the terrible girlfriend, or the mean wife, or the, you know, the perfect girl. And once I moved out to LA especially, and I started befriending all these female comedians and actresses, and I'd then see them in movies, and they were so funny, and then I'd see them in a movie, and they weren't being allowed to be funny. They were being mean, and I was like, why is this happening? And I just like telling stories. I just relate to women's stories more, I guess, and thought, well, I want to do this. And so honestly, the first time I really got to do it was on Freaks and Geeks with Lindsay's character. She's the one I had kind of invented out of whole cloth, because it was based on me as a kid, but I always wished I was an only child, and I always wished I had an older sister. And so I basically invented my perfect older sister in her, and then I put all of my 35-year-old at the time angst onto her, you know, because I figure a 16-year-old girl is about the emotional maturity level of a 35-year-old man. And yeah, some not even that close. President accepted. Yeah, and so I just had so much fun writing that character, and then I just was like, I just want to keep doing this, and I had a hard time pitching shows and movies between that and Bridesmaids, because I would, and they, you know, go, oh, it's about this woman who, oh no, well, it can be a man, and I didn't know enough about the business to know how fucked up that was. Yeah. You know, so I was like, oh, I guess they know something I don't know. I'm so embarrassed that I pitched a woman for the lead in this movie, and then you said, like, well, wait, why is that a problem? Well, you know, internationally we can't sell it, and this, I was like, well, that seems ridiculous that you're just going to accept that? Like, half the population of the world can't be starring in films? And so that's why it said, like, well, no, let's change it, you know? So, and that's why, you know, by the time I got to making, like, Spy, I was, you know, I'd been told, oh, you know, female-led, you know, action movies won't work. It's like, well, let's make one that's so much fun, it's got a lot of action, and then we'll try to break that down. It actually did really well internationally. So, you know, you just got to keep hammering against that wall to break these old preconceived notions, because Hollywood's not like an evil town. You know, it's not like they're like, let's keep women out of it. It's just this weird default setting of business and, well, our things show, and then they just go, oh, well, you know, every time people would come into our offices to pitch something, the pitch would always start the same way, whether a man or woman was pitching. A lot of times, it's like, it's about this guy who, and I was like, yeah, well, does it have about a guy who? Can it be about this woman who? You know, and we've had a few projects. We've got one that's going on right now on NBC that's going into production, where, you know, it came in, and I was like, well, could this, instead of being a man, could it be a woman in the lead? And the showrunner's like, well, yeah, and now it, you know, and it just makes the show so much more interesting and you know, and so great. So, you know, it's just changing that default setting in the brain that you have to do.
And you're right, Hollywood's reliant on data, sales data, and if they haven't used women, then of course their data is going to affirm the fact that women don't sell movies.
Yeah.
The watershed moment for Sudden came at the Oscars a couple of years back with Frances McDormand talking about the inclusivity rider, which is something you have adopted. Feig is sort of leading the way in trying to get diverse voices to the screen, but also making sure that women are represented.
Yeah, I mean, the inclusion rider, I thought was, for us it was easy because we do that anyway. Yeah. You know, basically we try to, you know, get as much diversity, you know, in gender parity between, you know, in front of the camera and behind the camera. You know, I've been good in my career about doing it in front of the camera. It took me a while to kind of wake up about how bad it is behind the camera, and so I've been, you know, spending the last several years trying to right that wrong. And we have a company that we've started called Powder Keg, which is our digital arm. But for us, it's a way, we produce webisodes and just in short films so that we can kind of create this farm team of new female filmmakers and people of color and LGBTQ. Oh God, I can't talk today. To get their voices out there and give them an opportunity in a lower pressure situation of making short form, so then we can go like, look, they killed this. Now we can go out and say like, look, we can vouch for this person. They can, now they can take on a feature. They can take on their own series. That kind of thing. And so. And
I think we've got a clip of one of Powder Keg's. This is short form.
Yeah, this is we did six episodes of a webisode called East of La Brea. We started. This guy is Samir Gardiza, who was a writer on a lot of mainstream sitcoms in Hollywood, but he was the only Muslim American writer in the room. He always felt very kind of like an outsider, and so he started this program called Break the Room, which basically he found like 6 brand new female Muslim American writers who he thought, we read a lot of different scripts and writing samples, found these ones we thought were great, put everybody in a room with him, and they basically broke and wrote this 6-episode web series. And we ended up filming it. We got funding from Lyft, the rideshare place. They put in, because one of the characters plays a Lyft driver, and then we put in money from our investor in the show. And and we shot them. We're trying to figure out where, we have people kind of who want it, and we're just figuring out where it goes. But I'm really proud of it.
I can't wait to see this. I haven't seen this, so here it is. This is East of La Brea, is that right?
East of La Brea, yeah.
We'll come on to that in a little bit and talk about sort of stream shows, but I just want to track back to sort of post-Heat, the enormous success of this sort of skewed, unique, beautiful rom-com, followed by Heat, where, a sort of buddy movie, but a cop movie, and then we moved to Ghostbusters, and it seems to me this was the genre that some guys did not want you to populate with women.
What do you mean, Sue? Everyone was so accepting of this film.
And in particular, of course, the horrific abuse that Leslie Jones got after her. And that is a show that has 4 great female characters working together, and she was targeted. Well, how do you feel in retrospect about all that? I'm going to say brouhaha, but I think shitstorm is better. Painful, negative shitstorm that no one deserved.
It was terrible. I like to try to minimize it, but it was awful, and because none of us expected it. I think when I decided to do, I'd been kind of chased by Amy Pascal, who was running Sony at the time, and by Ivan Reitman, who kind of wanted me to take over the franchise, and I loved the franchise. I saw the original one opening weekend when I was in film school and thought it was great, and I always went like, what a great idea. 4 funny people, scientists using technology to fight the supernatural. Like, it's a great idea that shouldn't just be limited to one movie. And so, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it, and then when I thought, well, okay, how would I do it? It's like, oh, I have all these really hilarious women. Let's cast them, because then we won't have comparisons to, the famous men who played these. And it just seemed like so much fun. So I tweeted this thing out like, hey, I'm going to do this. I got 4 hilarious women. That's who I'm going to call. And the first day, just all these people are so excited and yay, yay. And then the next morning you wake up and you're like, oh my God. And it just unleashed this thing that I'd always had a really nice relationship with the internet before that. Like, people were very supportive because they like Freaks and Geeks, and they like Bridesmaids and Spy and all that stuff. So it was always this kind of friendly banter with everybody. And we awoke the Gamergate guys who had, destroyed lives before they came after us. And it just seems so silly to me now. People still, every day on Twitter, it's like some angry guy, and it's like, dude, it's been 3 years. Like, you gotta let it go.
And the idea that you destroyed their childhood.
I know, somehow I destroyed their childhood, even though,
But they're still living it, obviously. It's like, become an adult.
I know, exactly. But for me, the greatest moment was when we won Best Film at the Nickelodeon Awards. We beat like Captain America and a Star Wars movie and stuff. And you go like, well, I guess I ruined your childhood, but I think the children who actually have a child actually enjoyed the movie. So I will never apologize for that movie. Look, it's not a perfect movie. No movie is perfect. Well, some are. None of mine are. But I'm very proud of it, and I stand by it, and I would make another one in a heartbeat.
But I remember when all that was going on, and let's not sugarcoat it. I mean, what Leslie had to deal with was pure racist bile, you know, directed at her.
Yeah.
But I occasionally would see in your Twitter feed a mum with kids going to Halloween, and her kids were dressed as the girls from Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Oh no. And there's been women who write me say they went into engineering or they went into science because just seeing a positive role model doing science, even though it's ridiculous science in our movie, but I tried to keep it as close to kind of nuclear science as I could in it. That it's inspired people in that way, women in that way, and so that makes everything worth it. All these angry guys, whatever their issue is, everyone's kicking and screaming now because they're heading into the future and they don't want to be put into the future. But guess what? The future's here, and you better embrace it because it ain't going away.